let's get into Bhagavad Gita now. So what is Krishna saying? What causes stress? So one thing is, Bhagavad Gita, all the 600 plus verses, there are 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita. The first chapter is mostly about the battleground, setting of the scene. And then when you start with the second chapter, it's such an amazing book that if you open it on any page when you have a problem, you'll find a solution. So today, of course, I'm not going to take you through those 600 plus verses, but we will pick a few and just to show that how we can get these practical things that Krishna is saying. So first, he is explaining what causes stress. So this is in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, he gives a whole series of what leads to what. He says, Dhyato Vishayan Punsaha Sangaha Deshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodha Abhijayate. So he's saying, how does anger happen? Yesterday we were at a program and someone asked, how do I control the anger? Right? Many reasons for anger. And this is where he's saying that it all starts by us trying to meditate. We are meditating on objects of senses. So if you see your day-to-day life, throughout the day, or our whole life is actually motivated by this, right? All of us, right? It's motivated by this. We want a good high-paying job. Why? Because we want money. And why do you want a lot of money? Because you want more things. Why do you want more things?
To show to the world.
To show to the world. And why do you want to show to the world?
That's a peer pressure.
That's a peer pressure, right? And when you can't show it to the world, then what happens? You become frustrated, you become angry, you become sad, right? So we are living a life not for ourselves, but we are living a life for others, right? Why again? Because the mind is weak. The mind gives in to these peer pressures. The intelligence is not strong enough to say, I have to live my life for myself, not for others. And I was saying, in one sense I was very fortunate that at a very young age, even before I came into IIT, I got access to this knowledge and got access to some very wonderful spiritual personalities from whom I learned all of this. And even when I was in IIT, I was the only student who was, in fact, because I took initiation, I came into this path officially, and as part of taking that vow, it was that we give up a few things. And one of the things is no onion, no garlic. And can you imagine living in IIT campus back in the late 80s and living in a hostel where they cook for 250 students? I'm the only person who doesn't eat onion garlic. Okay? But I can just say that it was some faith in what Krishna is saying that I did not give in to the peer pressures. I did not give in to what other people will think about it. And the result was that, and I'm just sharing this one because these are the things that you will see that when you don't give in to peer pressure, when you live things by your intelligence that is driven by scriptures, how things manifest. So this is right after I took initiation and our semester was starting and we were walking from our hostel to the academic building, which was about a mile walk. So every day in the morning we will walk about 10-12 minutes. And one of the students, my friends, and this was literally the first day, so we had all checked in the night before. So breakfast, of course, I could get some milk and other things. And he said, do you know they have started an experimental mess? So they call it a mess, right? The canteen is called a mess. It's called a yoga mess. So what is that yoga mess? This is for people who are doing meditation or who are in sports. So they're only going to select 50 students to be part of this yoga mess. So I said, really? I said, okay. He said, you can go and, I said, I'm looking for some special guide. So I went and talked to our dean of students, And I went to his room. I still remember that meeting. There was another professor sitting there. I'm just an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, and I told him that, I've given up eating onion garlic, so can you help? And he said, sure. I will write a letter to the head of this yoga canteen, and they will make something. And this other professor was sitting, and he said, why at such a young age you have given up this all up? This is just foolishness. He was just like, so I was, how do I say something to a professor? But anyways, I was sitting quiet. And then this other professor said, no, if he has taken a decision in his life, we should support him. And he wrote a letter, and then I took it, and then I can tell you that cook kept some separate utensils for me. In our regular hostel, the mess was a real mess. The food was just terrible. When they would make saag, we used to call it khaslet. As if they plucked grass from outside and made it a saag. It was so bad. And in this yoga mess, they would make special food for me, and it was the most delicious that every friend of mine would say, can we come with you today to have this food? I get fresh chapatis with ghee and all kind of things. But the point here is that we give into these peer pressures and we get our intelligence being driven by what people expect of us, not what we think or what is being told by the scriptures. So he says that when we meditate on these objects of the senses that we are acquiring, attachment develops to them. Then you want to acquire them. And when you are not, and because of that, lust develops. That lust means the desire. And we are not able to acquire them, then anger comes. Frustration. Anger is another, thing of frustration, right? I'm not able to get it. He was telling me, our dear friend who's standing in the back, that he has a friend in New Jersey who makes $400,000 a year, right? But he's extremely frustrated. Sleepless nights. Why? Because someone else in his company makes $500,000. So he's like so depressed all the time, right? So it's not that he does not want to make good use or be blissful. How many people make $400,000 a year? Right? But he's not happy with that. He's more unhappy because someone else is making $500,000. So anger develops because I'm not able to do it. So then Krishna says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat buddhi vibramaha smriti vibrama smriti bhranshad buddhi nashad pranashyati. So because of anger, it gives rise to delusion. And from that delusion comes loss of memory. And when memory means your ability to decide what is right and what is wrong, that destroys one's intelligence. And when intelligence is destroyed, then what should we do? Right? So I'm going to take you through some ways that, first of all, important thing is to recognize, right? And recognition, acceptance takes courage. Okay? Acceptance requires courage. A lot of times we don't have courage to accept the reality of life. Right? We all know that life is temporary, right? We all understand it, but we don't accept it. So, till we have the courage to accept what is right and what is wrong, we will not be able to do it. So I'm going to just show you some ways. Because end of the day, the mind has been conditioned in a certain way. Unconditioning it will take some time and effort. So don't think that you will leave from this and you become extremely blissful. If you can be, then my work is done. I will think that I've done a great job. But the truth is that conditioning has happened not only in just this life. It has happened from many, many lifetimes. Because remember, mind goes from one life to the next life to the next. It's carrying these impressions from previous lives. So to uncondition it takes time and effort. And some of these techniques even therapists will tell you. The only thing is when they tell you, it is not necessarily connected to something higher, right? It is only trying to solve that immediate problem of your stress. But the same techniques, if you try to do with a higher purpose, of higher purposes of what Krishna is telling Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, of understanding what life is all about, then you will be able to do two things. Stress will certainly, I can tell you stress, those who follow this path is the easiest thing to come over. Easiest thing to come over, right? Once we develop that faith. So for here, it's a good thing. How many of you take notes or have some sort of a diary that you write? Many of us probably don't even write anymore because of this thing, right? So there's a notes app here. So maybe you can just use that. So what you do is, at least try to do this for a week. Try for a week to see what desire I had and what triggered it, right? And was that trigger useful or harmful for me? How did I react to it, right? So, and if this thing made your mind peaceful or did it make it more disturbed? So try this. See, many times these things really help when you write things down, when you try and make notes, because many times these thoughts are going on in our mind and we are not able to manage them because we get so caught up by them. But when you take the time to sit and write and reflect on them, and it again takes a little time, just don't make it a big exercise, just try 5-10 minutes. But when you sit down and think about it, many times it happens to say, what, I was just being so foolish, What did this have to do with real happiness? Did it really make me happy or peaceful? No, it did not. So simple thing that, and again, now I'm going to go through many of these, so please feel free if you have any questions, do ask as we go through this. Now, as we go through this, we also have to understand it's not an easy thing. So I'm not going to represent that controlling the mind is an easy thing. It is challenging. Okay? It is not easy because one thing important to recognize that is because if you know the power of your enemy in the battle, right, you will have the right weapons to fight that enemy. If you underestimate the power of your enemy, then you're going to get defeated, right? So similarly, understanding that mind is actually very strong. Okay, it has, and I can tell you, most of the time we can't even distinguish when we are under the control of the mind and when we are actually under control of the intelligence. 99.9% of the time we are being driven by the mind, right? Because we are not able to separate the mind from other things. So therefore it's not easy, but it is certainly doable. And actually Arjuna tells to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati bal vat dridham tasya aham vigraham mane vayuriv sudushkuram. He says that this mind is so difficult to control. So difficult to control. I can control the flow of the wind, right? He was such a great bowman. With his arrows, he said, I can control the flow of the wind, but I can't control my own mind, right? Something that you have. This is your own thing. But what is happening? We are not able to control. It is controlling us. So, then what Krishna says? So Krishna says, and this is where he is going to teach many, many strategies to Arjuna. He says that asanshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasen tu kaunten viragyen cha grihate. He says, I agree that mind is restless. I agree that mind is difficult to control. But he says with constant practice and renunciation. Constant practice and renunciation, it can be checked. Now, we may say, what do you mean by renunciation? Right? What does renunciation mean?
Not being attached.
Not being attached. That's very good. So, renunciation does not mean that you have to renounce what you have. You just have to renounce the attachment to those things. So, renunciation doesn't mean that you have to leave your home. Krishna never told Arjuna to leave his family. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, he actually told him to fight. So he didn't tell him to leave. He only told him to give up the attachment to things that he was attached to. And where does the attachment lie? Is that object holding you, or you holding the attachment? We are holding it, right? This is one example my spiritual master used to give, that, there's a monkey who would every day come to a house and come inside the kitchen and will steal something. Old days in India, the windows were there, and easily someone opened windows and these monkeys would come. So one day, the owner of the house put a little small tin there, and in that tin put some chanas, chickpeas. Now the monkey came and they liked chickpeas. So he put his hand inside the box, and when he grabbed those chickpeas, then it became a fist. Now he's trying to get out his fist, and he could not, because the hole was such that his hand went inside, but when it became a fist, it would not come out. So with his other hand, he's trying, and he's crying for this box is holding me, he's crying, as if the box is not letting his hand go off. Right? But what is actually holding whom? It is him which is holding on to the box, not that small little tin box that is holding on to his hand. This is actually our situation. Most of the time, we are holding on to things with the fear of those things. So renunciation doesn't mean that you have to leave your home. Krishna never told Arjun to leave his family. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, he actually told him to fight. So he didn't tell him to leave. He only told him to give up the attachment to things that he was attached to. And where does the attachment lie? Is that object holding you, or you holding the attachment? We are holding it, right? This is one example my spiritual master used to give, that there's a monkey who would every day come to a house and come inside the kitchen and will steal something. Old days in India, the windows were there, and easily someone opened windows and these monkeys will come. So one day, the owner of the house put a little small tin there, and in that tin put some chanas, chickpeas. Now the monkey came and they liked chickpeas. So he put his hand inside the box, and when he grabbed those chickpeas, then it became a fist. Now he's trying to get out his fist, and he could not, because the hole was such that his hand went inside, but when it became a fist, it would not come out. So with his other hand, he's trying, and he's crying, oh, this box is holding me, he's crying, as if the box is not letting his hand go off. Right? But what is actually holding whom? It is him which is holding on to the box, not that small little tin box that is holding on to his hand. This is actually our situation. Most of the times we are holding on to things with the fear that if I give up, and it's even to our thoughts, even to our ideas, or if I give it up, what would happen? What would happen? There is such a sense of insecurity, such a sense of fear that we don't want to give things up, right? So we are holding on to our conditioned mind, not ready to give up things that are causing the problem. So Krishna says renounce. So renunciation is not just attachment to objects, attachment to our bad habits, attachment to our negative thoughts, attachment to our fears, all of these things that we are attached to, he's saying, renounce that. And how do you do it? Right? How do I do it? So again, if you would like, do a 21-day practice challenge. Okay? And for these 21 days, because practice takes a little effort, it cannot happen. A habit doesn't build up in 1 day or 2 days. So let's say 3 weeks. Some simple discipline. If you're already doing something, great. But the discipline means what? That no matter what, I will do it. Right? That's what discipline. It's not aaj kiya, kal nahi karenge. Right? So, and also fix a time. Right? So if I say, before I start my work, I'm going to do 10 minutes of some meditation or japa, and I will do it every morning, no matter what. Right? The mind will tell today, oh, I got up late today morning, or I have to do this, or I have to do. But you tell your mind, no, I have taken up this 21-day challenge. And a lot of people do this even, when they are trying to build their muscles or doing other things. They do go through these 21-day challenges. 21 days, I won't eat any carbs, or I will do this, I will do that, right? So when for our physical body, we do so many things. So for our mental health, try this challenge for 21 days, and with discipline, do it. Because the whole point of controlling the mind is making it disciplined. Mind is like a child who does not like to be disciplined. A young little child runs away here, there, in every direction. They have so much energy. Mind is also full of so much energy because of its unlimited desires. It does not want to be controlled. So to control it, you have to do things that it does not like. And I can tell you, and this is how you start seeing yourself different from the mind when you try to discipline. Because mind will always tell you, especially when it comes to a good thing, not to do it. You can Google it and you will see, and this is not I am saying, this is scientists saying that 80% of the thoughts that come in the mind are negative thoughts. Or thoughts that prevent you from doing things that you should be doing. Right? So this is where we have to discipline. So the word disciple or shishya comes from the word discipline. So a disciple of a guru is one who accepts the discipline that the guru is telling. And only a real guru is one who tells his disciples to follow a certain discipline. If a guru does not tell any discipline for the disciple to follow, then it's not a real guru, right? Because if I say, do whatever you want, right? That's not a guru. Because the business of a guru is to help you control the mind. So this is a 21-day challenge, and I'm just saying do it for 10 minutes. But do that 10 minutes at a fixed time. You can be 5 times, but whether you decide for morning or evening, do it every single day. Okay? Anyone ready for it? Okay, we have a few hands up. Okay, that's good. And you will see, because after 21 days, it will become some sort of a habit. And if you don't do it, you will feel something lacking in your... and I'll give you a simple example. As when we try to make it a practice at our home to, in the evening, everyone to sit together and for 15 minutes to do our prayers. So we do some kirtan and some aarti. And they say that families that pray and eat together stay together. And I can tell you a lot of times today families are disintegrating. A lot of young people do not want to be with their parents. They don't want to. Just yesterday, I was talking to someone and they were saying, our kids don't even call us. We don't even know where they are. So because growing up, we didn't pray and eat together. So in our family, my parents made that discipline, and as we were growing up, as I had my first son, so from beginning we had this discipline. What I noticed was, so one time, and I'll tell you how this has an impact even on a child. So one time, because mostly we would be in the evening, and when he was about 3 or 4 years old, 3.5, 4 years old, and we will be at home doing this 15-minute prayer. So one time, actually, we were driving at that time. And as soon as it was 7 o'clock, my son said, Dad, isn't it time for our prayers now? And I was just thinking, we're driving, we can skip it today. And he said, isn't it time for us to do our prayers? And that struck my mind. You know what? Why should I'm driving, I can still sing, I can still do it. And actually that became a discipline in our family, that even if we were driving and anywhere we were, around that time, of course sometimes it may be 7:30, we would all, even in the car, we will do it. So this discipline becomes a habit, and even for children, it becomes a habit. So please try this out. Okay, then Krishna says, and I can tell you this is one of the most powerful therapies that Krishna tells to Arjuna. One of my favorite verses from Bhagavad Gita, and actually the first verse I memorized. And very beginning of his instructions to Arjun, Krishna says, Matra sparshastu kantya shit ushna sukh dukhdaha agama paina nitya tan titikshastu bharata. So he says that when the senses come in the contact with the sense objects, okay, matra sparsha means contact, matra means the senses, shit ushna sukh dukhda, you experience cold, heat, happiness and distress. So all of these, so we were saying fear, for example, right? Or financial, so all of these things, we didn't put any heat and cold here. That also gives us stress, right? We're so conditioned, if your electricity goes away, right? Nowadays, if it is noon time and you lose power, right? How stressful it becomes, right? Why? Because it's so hot. We are so conditioned now by the air conditioning that we can't survive without it. So what he's telling Arjun is a very important point. He says, such experiences are flickering and temporary. Okay? This word temporary is very, very important to understand. That we think something that life that I'm facing is never going to go away, as I was saying before. We feel that this will not go away. And in the frustration and stress that this phase will not pass, we become very, very depressed. And that time that we could have passed very calmly and just facing it. How do we face it? He says tolerate it, and that was your question. Right? Sometimes things happen in the life or situations happen. Sometimes you can undo things. But many times you can't undo things, right? You can't undo things. Why? Because this is because of a previous karma. There's some prarabdha karma that we all have to, we like it or we don't like it, that we have to face. So Krishna is saying, tolerate it. Okay, this tolerance is a great, great tool that we have. And today's problem is that we have forgotten how to tolerate, right? How to tolerate. We can't tolerate our relationships, right? Big problem. In the previous days, when my grandfather was married, he did not even see my grandmother. They married and they had a happy life. When my father married, then he was allowed to see my mother just for the time she brought a tray with cups of tea on that. And she kept it, she sat down, and my grandfather told, Shashi, things are done, just go. On the other room. So only for those few minutes my father was able to see, they were married and they had a happy life. Why? Because they were taught that whatever it may be, now that you're married, you have to tolerate and you have to make it work. You have to make it work, right? Why? Because end of the day, this is also temporary, right? This relationship itself is temporary. It's not going to be there forever, right? But now you're put in that relationship for some reason, okay? And that reason is predestined because of your previous lives. Believe me. Now I won't go into this, but the truth is that we have this karma balance, credit debit. And we have to do that for each other, right? Because of that, relationships happen. Why is it that that person got married to that and that child was born in that family? Because these are your previous karmas that have to be paid off. right? Now you are put in a situation. Now, one thing Krishna is telling Arjun throughout Bhagavad Gita, that now that you have a situation, just tolerate it and don't create more karma, because then it will just perpetuate this problem in this life and the next life. So this is an important point to understand. All the behavioral therapies that they teach you will only solve your problem temporarily for this life. What Krishna is telling Arjun will solve the problem for this life and life after life after life. So you are actually fixing yourself not just for this life, but also for your next life. So this ability to tolerate, and just try this even on a physical level. Okay, physical level, I have tried at times, because we all grew up taking shower with whatever the temperature of the water was. Coming here, we all have gotten used to warm water. And then one time I read how harmful warm water is for your body's health. And slowly I started decreasing the temperature of the water when taking bath. And now I don't take, of course, absolute cold shower, but it is much cooler than what I was used to. And I'm still perfectly fine. I'm still surviving, and I can tell you that bath feels much better. So just giving yourself this little ability to tolerate things, right? So whether it's anger, so these are urges, urges. So you have all seen a sine curve, right? A curve goes like this. It goes up, then it comes down, right? So urge means that emotion goes up, right? It almost consumes you. Now in that, when it is consuming you, and you can act very badly, right? You are overcome with the emotion of anger, you are overcome with the emotion of frustration, whatever it is. And that's when we react. But if we learn to tolerate, right, then it will pass away. How do we tolerate? Simple thing you must have all heard of, and try this. So it says that first thing is being mindful when that thing is coming, and this is how you start kind of seeing your mind. Or now my mind is troubling. So just take a pause, deep breath, 10 breaths, and what we try to do is we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Just chant, take a little walk, and just tell yourself, this will also pass. Okay? And believe me, this happens all the time. It happens at work, happens with kids, happens within your relationship. This happens all the time, multiple times in a day. So just a joke. So one guy, and just to take it as a joke, this is related. So guy was very healthy, and the friend asked, why, you look very fit, and don't think this is for me, but so he said, because I stroll outside a lot. He said, why? He said, every time my wife is angry, I just go out and take a walk to just calm things. The phase will pass. So I'm mostly strolling outside. Okay. So that's why he is very fit. But the point is, this helps. Because that time when that emotion is coming up, you have to take a break from it. And it has to be done mindfully, consciously, right? Consciously take a break, and sometimes just remove yourself from that situation temporarily, and it will pass, right? So Krishna is saying tolerate pleasure and pain, both the things. So not only just the pain side of it, but there are many times that there are a lot of pleasure in our life. Then also sometimes what happens? We get driven away, right? And this is, I'll go back to that 21-day discipline. What happens when there is some problem in our life, then we will come to these kind of things, we will want to start doing some puja, and the moment things become normal, sab to problem khatam ho gayi, then mind will say, aaj rehne do, kal kar lenge, parso kar lenge. Because the problem is not there, right? There was, we were trying to get a job, and going, kisi ne bola ki 11 हफ्ते आप जाइए मंदिर और सोमवार को ये करो, religiously you will go, right? Job लग गई, and then kahan mandir hai, kahan jana hai, everything forgotten. So one thing anyways, these things, as Krishna will tell, we should not, because whatever material things will come on their own accord, believe me, they will come on their own accord. Whatever is in your bhagya, you will get it. So a lot of these things that Krishna is telling Arjun is not just for material success, but for the success of the life itself, which is not dependent on your material success, right? I think one thing we all understand, and I have in my 40 years in this path, I can tell you hundreds and hundreds of people I have met, whom externally you will see that they are so successful. They are the envy of everyone. They have everything that you can think of. But you sit with them, they will not tell you, but sometimes because we go for preaching and give a religious discourse, so sometimes those people will come and start sharing their hearts with you, and then you see how broken they are internally. What they show to the outside world, internally they're absolutely unhappy. So happiness is not dependent on material possessions.